The Convergence is back.
Cobra! La 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 la!
And that sound means the start of another Missal for the masses. This is the Chaplain Sisters Motor Pod, and I am your host, Gary.
And I'm Casey.
And this is the podcast where we talk about what's going on in our life of collecting, whether it be comic books, toys, concentrating on vehicles, playsets, and even trailers from the G.I. Joe, a Real American Hero toy line from 1982 to present day, with a particular focus on the original line of O-ring figures from 1982 to 1994. And this Missal, we will be recapping the June 2024 Energon Universe releases. And just before we start that, Casey, how are you doing this week?
I'm doing really well. Yeah, had a great weekend last weekend at Kentuckiana. Got my despoiler.
Awesome.
Looks good on top of the demon. Just had a great time with friends, buying some Joe stuff. Mostly, I went Iron Grenadier, I got the Target today from Fairday Toys. Just been all over the place.
Yeah, it's been good to know. I mean, I saw you posting about it, and just in general having a good time. Look forward to listening to your recap on your replay and on the podcast from the Pit YouTube channel. So really glad you're out there, you're having fun. What's going on for me? Not much, just the usuals. So not going to bore anybody with the details. But what I have been doing is reading a lot of comics. Have you been reading a lot of comics?
I have been. Not just Joe either. I mean, I got a Bloodshot Omnibus, and it was amazing because I love Valiant comics from the 90s. Well, I like the new stuff too. So I just burnt through that. And it's such a good time. I got a Lone Ranger Omnibus. I can't pronounce that word right, but you know what I'm talking about.
Yeah.
It has like the first 25 Dynamite comics of Lone Ranger. I'm like halfway through that. It's really good too.
Awesome. Yeah. So yeah, I got my Omnibuy. I got the ROM Volume 2 Omnibus. And I've just been, I haven't really started really too much reading ROM. I'm still catching up on my Marvel Transformers. So I'm about 35, 36 issues into that right now. And also mixing in the Headmasters. So I will say this as a, dyed in the wool Larry Hama fan from the 80s and 90s, reading the Transformers, and I'm still in the Bob Budiansky era. It's definitely a different way to do a toy comic book, but it's not necessarily bad, but it's definitely different. And if it wasn't for the Longbox Crusade and the Transformers Chronicles podcast, I would not have made it this far. Only because it's something, for me to engage with, trying to catch up to be with them. But yeah, it's it's different. It's interesting. So, but it's really, for me, mostly it, other than reading Daredevil on a month-to-month basis, it really for me is right now all I'm reading is Joe in Energon Universe.
It's the best thing out, I think.
Well, we're recording this, and San Diego Comic-Con is still going on. We could talk a little bit of current events. Did you see that Transformers and Daniel Warren Johnson have, between the two of them, they have received 2 Eisner Awards.
Oh, nice.
So one, Transformers won for Best Continuing Series, and Daniel Warren Johnson won for Best Writer/Artist.
Well deserved.
So I don't know if this is the first recording of anybody reviewing these books that can say the Eisner Award-winning Transformers. So I might stress that again later on in the recording. So, but yeah, it's obviously the big news is the HasLab Rattler.
Looks good.
The 34 something inch wingspan.
At least they fold up for easy storage.
Yeah, I looked at that and I'm just like, no way. I'm happy I'm walking away from classified and concentrate more on O-ring and O-ring scale. Is just that's freaking huge.
Yeah, it is. It looks good though. I mean, I'm happy for everybody who's backing it. It has funded. They're hitting goals. So to everybody that's looking forward to it, congratulations. Hope you enjoy it.
Yeah, it's it funded in less than 24 hours again.
Mhm.
So yeah, it's going to see production. Yeah, like you said, it has some neat, interesting features inside the cockpit. It looks like working joystick and working throttle control. Interesting lights, multiple heads for Wild Weasel, damaged helmet, and then a new sculpt of Baroness, which frankly looks really attractive.
Mm-hmm.
So, but she's a stretch goal.
Yeah.
But then the other one was in O-ring news. Did you see the Transformers O-ring crossover?
I barely, but it looks good. That was Sergeant Slaughter and Triple T, right?
Yep, and Leatherneck.
And Leatherneck. That's Leatherneck's awesome. It's one of
Yeah.
my favorite Joes.
I think it's another. I think this one's going to be a home run. The only thing I'm going to be trepidatious about is Sergeant Slaughter. The original O-ring figure is like 4 inches tall.
Mm-hmm.
So, and looking at the digital renders, it looked like Sarge was 3 3/4, and a larger than life guy with a larger than life persona. Uh, I'm sorry, that's going to be doing the man a tad bit of injustice.
Yep.
So, I don't know. Is there anything else we need to discuss before we go into comics?
No, I think you've hit on the big ish topics with Joe. I'll leave my Mo2ness out of this.
Well, real quick, you're an O-ring collector. Are you going to try to get in on
Yeah.
the Transformers crossover, Joe?
But, I've not done it because I've never, and it's a little hypocritical because I love the Energon universe. I've never been a fan of GI Joe Transformers cross the streams. It's just not. Maybe they're going to change my mind when they start really doing it, but as of right now, I'm not a fan of it. I only have a couple of the O rings. That's just because I had a friend who bought them for the Transformers and gave me the O rings.
Okay. Yeah, I'm definitely all in on the
Yeah.
Transformers GI Joe. I will say that if you've gotten the O-rings, I really hope you got the Zartan and Zorana.
Mm-mm.
Those are by far the best of all the quote unquote retro O-ring figures they've made. I've gotten all the O-ring figures. And yeah, I will definitely say those are head and shoulders above the rest of them. They're all solid. The Cobra Commander is really good, and I did troop build the 2-pack of the Cobra Officer Cobra Troopers, just because my originals, the heels are so brittle, or they're just so brittle. I don't want to play with them
Yeah.
anymore. So
I do have those. I got the Cobra Commander. I got the Stalker. I got Baroness. Yeah, I liked them. I thought they were cool. I wish they would have kept making O rings.
agreed. But now we got Super 7 to fill in that void because Hasbro doesn't feel that it's profitable enough. Fine by me.
Super 7 will give us the figures that Hasbro would never give us. So I'm looking forward to it.
Yeah, but they're also doing like the one thing that I cannot believe Hasbro didn't do as a retro, like when they did retro Snake Eyes. It was like retro V1 Snake Eyes. And I love version 1 Snake Eyes,
Hmm.
but we've never gotten a retooling of version 2. And it's like, of all the Snake Eyes that you would retool, why wouldn't you retool that one?
Yeah.
You go, lo and behold, you go to Joe Fest, and what's prominently there? A retooled version 2 Snake Eyes. So,
Yeah.
and they're going to do repaints of that.
Oh yeah. 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 I'm looking forward to Super 7 stuff. So
Yeah,
especially to keep that price where they say they're going to.
absolutely. Yeah. So, more power to them. I will support that Reaction Plus line
Yeah.
wholeheartedly. I'll support the Hasbro O-rings wholeheartedly. Delta 17, Operation Recall, Call Sign Longbow, Legends of the Hidden Force, Heavy Armor Toys. I know I'm missing somebody, but it's a good time to be an O-ring collector too, not just 6-inch
Oh
scale.
yeah. But we just need to start to roll in, especially since I've already paid for 3 or 4 of these lines. Let's go ahead and get them in. So then I've got them in hand, and we can't forget Skeletron. Skeletron's O rings are really good too.
Yeah, I told you I forgot one. So, all right, with that taken care of, I think it's finally to turn the page, so to speak, and let's talk Energon Universe comic books from June 2024. We're going to go in order of release, and we are going to start with as released on June 5th, Scarlett issue number 1 by Kelly Thompson, writer Marco Ferrari, art and Lee. I hope I don't mess this up. Luffridge on colors.
I think so. Yeah, Luthridge.
So, and then there's also Russ Wooten as letterer, and then you got Ben Abernathy as editor, and really that's for the most part the whole team. We'll be talking about the main cover first. The main cover is by Marco Ferrari and Lee Luffridge. It is an image of Scarlett walking across the snow. She's holding arrows in her left hand, her crossbow in her right. She's got pouches hanging off her hips. In the backdrop of the snow, you see the Arashikage symbol written in blood. You have like the entrance to a temple off in the background to her left. You got a huge mountain with a temple on top. So she's in a winter setting. She's in an outfit very reminiscent of her version 1 uniform. Her hair's in a ponytail, and it's a good, almost full body shot of Scarlett, nicely colored.
Yeah, I really like it.
But we were talking earlier. What do you really like, though?
I like cover B. I think cover B is the one I really like with Scarlet in an action pose with Jinx next to her and some ninjas at the bottom in a snowy setting. A couple helicopters. It just kind of, I don't know, gets you geared up for the story.
Yeah, just to mention that is by Joelle Jones. And the one thing that strikes me about this cover is it looks almost like it's from an action movie.
Right? Yeah.
So I get it. I get why you like that one so much. It's a really strong cover. Yeah, all the color, and all the covers are equally dynamic and gorgeous. But just want to touch on the main ones to before we go into the plot summary and what our thoughts are of the book. So plot summary is essentially Scarlett is sent to infiltrate a human trafficking operation where she encounters a a fellow operative named Jinx, who she hasn't heard from in quite a while. A battle ensues where Jinx rescues one of the hostages, and while against orders, Scarlett rescues American hostages and the rest of the hostages. She is During her debriefing, her superior officer is not pleased with what happened, while Scarlett, I don't, I don't want to say respectfully disagrees, but I would say militarily, professionally disagrees. So as she leaves the base, she goes home where she discovers that Stalker has entered her home. And Stalker then goes about sending her on a mission to retrieve Jinx, to bring her back in from the cold or find out what's going on, where she's at. So Scarlett hops in a helicopter piloted by Snowjob. She is dropped off at the Arashikage Temple. She manages to get into the temple, taking out many Arashikage ninja, and she presents herself to the Hardmaster to gain access or entry into the clan Arashikage, and it is ended when she is knocked out cold by the hilt of Storm Shadow Sword. And Casey, you want to lead off with something that you liked or thought about the book?
Well, one thing I really like about this book so far is that I'm a big James Bond fan, and it's got that kind of spot like James Bond feel to it as I'm reading it. When she's infiltrating that party to go for the human trafficking, just a lot of intrigue going on, a lot of gadgets, and the art's not my favorite, but it fits with how it's written, so I like it here. I don't know if that makes sense.
It kind of does. I would say that it's, very indie style, broken lines, a little rougher. It's not like as polished as something that you would think, but it's definitely, I would say it belongs to the characterization of Scarlett. Like she's rough and ready.
Yeah, yeah, definitely.
You know, I like how the artist makes everybody human. There's like sometimes with art, they want to make the soldiers look like superheroes and they want to make, the women look like pinup models, in every pose.
Right.
But everybody looks, real. Like, Scarlett looks like a real woman in many of the panels. Like she doesn't look gorgeous. She doesn't look ugly, but she just looks real. The same thing goes for Jinx. I think the most super heroic person is Stalker. He's sitting there getting a cup of coffee and you see his muscles, but the anatomy is
Jack.
spot on. He looks like just a jacked dude, And that was another thing. I wanted to talk about the art a little bit more because I like the detail Marco puts in, like her motorcycle outfit,
Mm-hmm.
the leather. It looks lived in, it looks worn, it looks like it fits, it's functional. But then he goes from all of the characters looking simultaneously cartoonish and realistic, and then you see him doing the helicopter as Scarlett is dropped off, or even the motorcycle that she rides off in. I mean, it's hard to get somebody that do just equipment and vehicles, spot on.
Yeah, that he did a really good job on the helicopter for sure, and the like flashbacks in a different color. I like that. It really, like I said, it's not my favorite art style, but it fits this comic well.
Yeah, and then I'll switch up to writer Kelly Thompson. One thing I love about Kelly Thompson, especially, is I like her female perspective, especially when she does female characters, because like the whole relationship between Jinx and Scarlett is very sisterly, and it isn't. There's the Bechdel test. Do the women talk about something other than a man? It passes. And I like the way she did their like secret code between each other of the different symbols.
Yeah, I would say if there's one thing I'm not the biggest fan of is the same issue I always have with Scarlet. That's the crossbow. I just think it's a horrible, horrible idea to give her a crossbow.
Well, I like the fact that she only got a crossbow when she was taking down the goons at the party. I thought that was a very good nod to her character while also not hampering her character. Like you said, the crossbow, as a practical, weapon, in a firefight, isn't.
Right.
Just to reload that thing is a 2 hand and 2 feet operation. So I like the fact that she got to shoot it, but that wasn't really her main weapon throughout the entire book.
They did an amazing job with the fight between her and Rashikage, though, and in the snow. A lot of great panels in there.
Yeah, I also appreciated as she was, you know, taking on all the ninja, she didn't always use lethal strikes. Many of her hits and takedowns were non lethal, trying to, I guess you could say, like, yeah, I'm worthy of doing this. I don't need to kill you guys.
Yeah. Like she got that one ninja in the back of the head with the flat of her sword.
Yeah.
But, there's still a lot of blood, though, on that 2-page spread.
Yeah. Well, exactly. You could definitely tell though she was holding back. It wasn't, not every strike was, with extreme prejudice. It was as necessary, you could almost say. But then, like you said, with the flashbacks, I wanted to go back to that because I really think what you said there with the different colors, I really think that credit should go to the colorist, Lee Luffridge, because, that's a great way, and they're all red tinted, which
Hmm.
tells you that it's Scarlet. I think that was a very interesting way to do it. Yeah, there's a lot of red in this book. But was there anything you didn't really like in the book, or?
No, I thought it was a great book. I really did. And I've never been shy about saying Scarlett's not my favorite character in G.I. Joe. Maybe it was her outfit. I don't know. She just didn't look like a Joe to me back in '82. But I mean, don't get me wrong. I don't dislike the character, and I think the story, as they keep this up, I'll like her even more.
Yeah, I think it's a good fit. I'm not no, there's nothing I'm surprised about by this book. If anything that I could say about this book would be a nitpick. Um, and really, the only thing I could think of is that one close up, and she has blue eyes. I would normally think a redhead would have green eyes. And that's literally like, that's genetics. So I'm probably
Right.
wrong anyway. But yeah, this was near near a perfect book as you can make.
It was really good.
Yeah. So okay.
I mean, so far, all the Energon books has been good to me. So,
All right. Well, let's move on to multiple Eisner Award winning comic book Transformers issue number 9 by Daniel Warren Johnson, Jorge Corona on art, and Mike Spicer on colors, Russ Wooten, the letterer, and Ben Abernathy, the editor. And talking the main color is Daniel Warren Johnson and Mike Spicer. It is Optimus Prime holding up the world, kind of like Atlas holding up
Mm-hmm.
the Earth. And the Earth has some cracks forming on the surface. It's a very simple, but I would say elegant cover.
I actually do not have that cover.
Oh, what color? What cover did you get?
I got cover B and Mike Spicer. Oh, Jorge Corona and Mike Spicer.
Okay.
It's the one with Shockwave holding. Oh, what is his name's head? I get my Autobots mixed up sometimes. He's holding a head in his hand.
Oh gosh. Robert Stack voiced him in the movie Ultra Magnus.
Let's say it looks like cups, but I know it's not.
Do you think it's Ultra Magnus from the
It could be.
interior?
Yeah.
So yeah, that's solid. Echoes of issue 5 of Marvel's Transformers by Mark Bright, the famous cover where it's Shockwave and it says, Transformers, and written on the wall are all dead.
Yeah.
It's a nice, not direct homage, but very, very heavily, I would say, echoes of it. Another cover I want to talk about real quick, cover C by Karen S. Darboe, with it's basically this, Shockwave holding the world in his hand, and the world has chains all around it. It's another simple image, a lot of reflection, in the metal and stuff, but it's powerful. But I only got cover A. So, really, to talk about what happened in the plot, Soundwave fires up the space bridge to Cybertron, and the Autobots arrive, and they are immediately put into combat with the Decepticons. Shockwave comes over the space bridge, immediately kicking Cliffjumper. The battle begins. Shockwave transforms into a gun, to be held by Soundwave, and Soundwave's ready to pull the trigger on Cliffjumper, where Ratchet kind of sacrifices himself to save Cliffjumper. In the meantime, Alita 1 brings Ultra Magnus over, and the other thing is Wheeljack and RC, along with Carly, head back to the dam where they're stopped by that militia that Carly's father and Spike's father started. And then also Astrotrain's in the mix to abduct Spike from the hospital, threatening them. And but Spike offers himself to save everybody else. We go back to the fight. Optimus Prime gets pile drive by Shockwave, and then the Combaticons are following RC and Ultra Magnus through the space bridge. When RC grabs Prime's rifle, shuts down the space bridge, cutting Onslaught in half. And then an explosion ensues. Optimus Prime, RC, and Ultra Magnus escape, where Shockwave picks up the remains of Jazz and Cliffjumper to take him back for torture. And then we're finally left off with Astrotrain is heading towards the space bridge when all of a sudden Beachcomber disables him to rescue Spike. In a nutshell, that's what happened in Transformers number 9. Casey, some thoughts?
Just constantly amazed of just how fast the action goes in this comic. And just another, it just seems like Skybound is picking the right artists with the right writers. Everything just seems to flow perfectly. But again, they just keep taking down my favorite Transformers.
So you're a Ratchet fan?
Yeah, yeah, I like Ratchet.
So Daniel Warren Johnson has tapped into Casey's mind to figure out what favorites to take down next. Stay tuned to issue number 10.
I will not say any more of my favorites because they will be out of here.
Yeah, no, again, it just proves to be continually be a brutal comic book that is fun.
Yeah, it keeps you guessing. It really does. I mean, the brutality's there, honestly, on both sides. More so Decepticons, though.
Yeah, it is. I think Daniel Warren Johnson gets this property. You know, he
Hmm.
is, one of us. He had Transformers as a kid. He gets it, and it definitely shows in his writing. One of my favorite moments is Shockwave's pile driving of Optimus Prime. That is a kid from the 80s through and through and through and through. It's just a great moment. He knocks Prime out cold, and then, Shockwave has to immediately celebrate, that villainous thing that just happens in comic books and cartoons.
Beachcomber taking out Astro Train. That's, I don't know, hard to believe.
I don't know if it's hard to believe.
For
I,
me.
I think the fact that it was unexpected works. I think a lot of these moments that happen that are unexpected is, it's like I like Astro Train really right now as a character because he's like, Spike, I admire your bravery. You
Hmm.
know, this is the way he's like a warrior. Is like he's so matter of fact. He's like, you're really brave. I respect that, but you're still gonna die because you are a lesser species. He speaks to Spike almost like as an equal, but
Yeah.
like, yeah, but you still lost, you know? So I like Astro Train's personality. He just believes he's on the right side of a war almost.
But, uh, the way they took Ratchet out, that was brave on Ratchet's part. At first, I liked the two little pictures look like Cliff Jumper got shot in the chest, but then you pull back and it's Ratchet laying on top of him with a big gaping hole.
Yeah. But Jorge Corona's art really just it works. His I think all of his facial expressions are good. The characters emote very well. He has a really, really good another unforgettable panel is when they're dragging Cliff Jumper away to get tortured.
Yeah,
And he's grabbing at the ground and stuff. And in the beginning, in the beginning of the book, he's smiling, and he's just there's just a lot of emotion in acting in the faces. And then the flip side is where you have Shockwave with no face, the body has to do that storytelling, that dramatic, you know, that Soundwave is. He's supposed to be logical and stuff, but he really pauses for dramatic effect. So, he's like megalo I don't know, maybe not megalomaniacal or whatever. That wow, screwed that word up. But he's very, almost like Victor Von Doom. You know,
yeah. I mean, it's just another great issue of Transformers. I did buy the trade paperback for the first story arc,
okay,
so I don't have to keep rereading all my floppies.
yeah, it definitely, like you said, this is another stellar book. This has been another solid so far. We're only halfway into June. I mean, Transformers number 9 being released June 12th. It's not something to sleep on.
Oh,
Now back to G.I. Joe.
Well, I think that brings us, to the Wednesday before Joe Fest, which was June 19th. And that is Destro #1 by Dan Waters, Andre Bresson, and Adriano Lucas, with Russ Wooten as letterer, and again, Ben Abernathy as editor. Before I keep going on, we got Ben Abernathy a few times. Do you think he got the job because of his last name?
Maybe. Wouldn't hurt.
No. This is funny. I have to thank Casey for getting me that issue so I could read it twice during Joe Fest.
Yep. I had to read it too. I did not want to wait.
So, and I thank you again. I managed to get the cover A, B, and C, and I also got cover J, and I also got a blank cover or two of them. Really, the one to talk about is the cover A from Andre Bresson and Adriano Lucas, and it's Destro on a throne. He has a gold AK-47 with a bayonet. The bayonet is digging into a briefcase, and his throne sits atop a bunch of essentially trashed bats, and it looks like an arm of some kind with an Autobot symbol on a shoulder, and you still got some Transformer fingers off to Destro's right. So, what are your thoughts?
Well, I mean, when I first saw the cover, I was blown away. I thought, yeah, that's Destro. I like that. And all the little bat parts, that's pretty cool. The weapons, the gold AK with the bayonet on it. That's almost Prophet Director Destro right there.
Yeah, I like his face. You know, it's expressive. It's like he's looking up, he's looking above you, like, if you're looking at the cover direct on, like he's pondering what his next move is. Another thing too, I forgot, the throne is backlit by like a fire of some kind in the background. So like the world is on fire. There's smoke rising. It is a wonderful portrait.
Yes.
I think it really sets the mood for what's in the book.
I mean, having that gold plated weapon, though, it just, to me, it just shows you that to him, it's all about money.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So the book opens up. It is civil war in Darklonia, where the citizens have risen up against the prime minister. The prime minister sends his troops to shoot the citizens, but when the troops exit the palace, they are greeted not by armed citizens. They are greeted by battle android troopers. The battle android troopers take everything out that the soldiers can dish, and then the soldiers are quickly overwhelmed as the bats eventually take the palace from the prime minister. There is one quick event where the bats turn around and they see the protesters slash insurgents, and then they shoot them too. And very quickly, the bats are turned off. Destro invades the palace. The prime minister confronts Destro only to shoot himself in the head with a pistol. Destro puts his cousin, Artem Darklon, in charge of Darklonia. We go back to Cobra Commander. He's not really happy with Destro using the Energon to take over a quote-unquote backwater nation for a personal vendetta. And Destro reminds him that they are business partners and that the actions of Mars do not necessarily reflect that of Cobra. Because Cobra Commander still wants to be in secret. And Destro's like, yeah, everybody thinks it's me anyway, so go away. Destro then confronts his ancestors in a highly classified part of the Scottish Highlands. And we fast forward 3 weeks later, and we get to the quote unquote trade show for armaments in Darklonia, where Mars Industries invites all, I guess you could say, their contemporaries, maybe not necessarily their competitors, but they all exist in the same space to do the same thing. And notably absent is Extensive Enterprises. We go over to the Extensive Enterprises. The reason why they're not there is because they're taking care of a botched advisory plan in Sierra Gordo. And after they get done taking care of that little quote unquote issue with Extreme Prejudice, of course, we are led to some drone warfare over Darklonia, and some Iron Grenadiers hop in some despoilers, and basically Destro survives the attack thanks to a dud bomb. That's where he realizes he's at war, and he is rightfully assuming that it's Extensive Enterprises.
Yeah. I've talked to a couple people who said the book was okay. I loved it. I thought it was great. I don't know. It has everything that I think Destro should be. And I love the use of Tier D level characters already to be important in the story. Mercer continues to show up. Darklon's in this. I think that's awesome. The Iron Grenadiers already are here. So much for me to love. Since Destro is my favorite bad guy,
Good thing he's not in a Transformers book.
right? He'd be out.
So, just a quick question for you, Casey. Did your despoiler, was it more expensive than you thought it would be because of its appearance in this issue?
No, it was $15.
I still stand by what I said. It is a great value for the money.
It is. It looks fantastic on there.
What I really enjoyed about this book is, like you said, it was a fully realized introduction to Destro, where it shows what he is. A dealer of arms, a major player in it for profit. It showed his characteristic of his loyalty to his family,
Mm-hmm.
his heritage. And then the other thing of him, and you see him in that final panel, he's smiling when he realizes he is at war. Like he has another purpose, another direct, non higher function purpose. He has something directly to do.
And not to get too far ahead, but the twins, with already showing the Crimson Guard, which is awesome, and the way they take care of all those wounded people, wounded soldiers.
Yeah, and I know we do spoilers on this. Yeah, they take care of the wounded soldiers with bullets, by
Yes.
putting more bullets into them. So, listener, if you have not read the book, yeah, Tomax and Zaymot kill all survivors of the unit because their leader disobeyed orders.
Yeah, you gotta learn. Yeah, I love the Iron Grenadiers. I believe I've made that known. They're great, great troop builders. I love seeing them in here already.
Yeah, and I went back to the biannual Security Innovation Defense Expo, and I'm looking at the equipment around. You have like an armored, like I don't want to say a Humvee, but that Rise of Cobra. What was that? The Steel Crusher, was it? It was like the Humvee with the machine gun on top.
Yeah, I know what you're talking about. I just can't remember the name of it.
Yeah, I'm sure Greg or Joel will.
Right? Yeah,
They're like
definitely.
screaming into their radios right now. But but they have like a Vietnam era tank, looks almost like a Bradley, and then you got a hiss, couple hisses all over to the side, and then you got the despoiler front and center in the middle. But I didn't see a demon tank. I don't see a Razorback. I don't see I don't see any other Iron Grenadier vehicles
Yeah, there should be at least one demon there. Come on.
or a Dominator.
Maybe they were the spoiler first, then they're gonna make the demon to put it on.
That's what they're 2025. They're going to announce the gold head Destro with a despoiler. That's what Hasbro is waiting to introduce for the classified series.
You know, I know this ain't the comic books, but I would love for them to do either modern or O-rings of the Energon, how they're doing the Joes and Cobras in this. Those figures would be awesome.
Absolutely. Yeah, so I want to say I really think, Dan Waters, he's the other interesting, so that's one thing is that they're all writing these letters at the end of the first issue. And he's from the United Kingdom as well, which I think is good because, you know, it gives a little more insight into Destro.
Hmm.
And, and he talks about playing with Action Man. So he might have been reading, Battle Action Force, a little more Red Jackal into this instead of Destro.
And I can't say enough good things about the coloring in here. It's very expressive, stands out well.
Yeah, and I'll go into my only detraction for this. I think, and overall, I do really enjoy this book, but I think Andre Bresson really had a hard time working out Destro's face, and I'm not really sure if it was all pencils. It could have also been a little bit of the inks and the colors, but there's some panels where I don't know, it just doesn't look quite right. Destro's helmet. The big one that I had an issue with, there's a panel where Mercer is advising, Destro about what's going on at the at the trade show, and Destro's head is just the reflections kind of weird, but his right eye is looking at Mercer and his left eye is looking straight ahead.
Yeah,
And
I'm looking at that one right now.
yeah,
It is weird.
it is weird. And there's one other. I guess it's when they show his like teeth. Like
Yeah,
when he's talking to their other. It's the he's got the mouth and everything's opened up, but his gums are showing and his teeth are showing, and it's just I don't know. Sometimes Destro's face is a little off-putting, like it's a little like the expression sometimes doesn't match. But like the other thing too is there's a lot of sound effects in some of the other books, but when the prime minister shoots himself, there's no gunshot, there's no anything. All you do is you see Destro almost like with bloodless watching what's going on, either before or after the shot has happened, which I know is one way to convey an image or to way to convey a message in the comics. And I think it really is, and I think it works. But I don't know. It's just like sometimes the line work and the coloring work is just it just doesn't sit well. Maybe it's supposed to make me disturbed. Maybe it's supposed to make me not like Destro that much.
Dark Lawn without his mask. I thought that was pretty cool. We'll see him get it one day.
Yeah, this could be like how Major Blood got his,
I,
his eye patch. This could be the follow-up story, how Darklon got his mask.
I liked it. I thought it was a good book, but I am a huge Destro fan, so
No, I like it too. It is. It's the final entry for Joe in June of 2024. I think there's only one book left to talk about. What do you think?
there is.
And that would be Void Rivals number 10 from June 26th by Robert Kirkman, Lorenzo De Felici, and Patricio Del Pesce, Russ Wooten as letterer, and Ben Abernathy as editor. And this whole book takes place on Zertonia and opens up with the two leaders talking to each other, about the fate of their respective children. And it goes to Proximus fighting Springer. And, the fight continues to go on. And Springer appears to have won. And he goes to help Dalek and Solila. And he takes them into his lab underneath the surface where he reveals he's been there for 100 years. Anyway, so they go down, they remove their helmets, and it's revealed that what the Zertonians call their mind eye, the Zertonians and the Agorians call their mind eye, is actually an Energon port. And we turn the page, and the next thing you know, we get Solila floating in ether. She's glowing in blue. And all of a sudden, she's talking to Zerta, and she comes out of this trance. She opens her eyes, and it discovers that she's glowing purple. And basically, Springer poured Energon directly into her quote unquote Energon port, reviving her. And then they talk a little bit about the sacred ring in Zerta Trion. And as we get all these reveals, there's a loud bang. We get a little bit of a flashback to Zertonia where they want to send a squadron of blast wings to the location where Proximus fell, and they exit out of Springer's hangar, only to find out that they're all those squadrons are waiting for them. So I'll lead off on this one. This was a very fun Void Rivals to read. I really enjoyed it. There was a lot of action. There was a lot of, exposition to fill us in on a lot of gaps. And everything was fantastic on this book.
Yeah, it took 10 issues, but I believe this is my favorite Void Rivals book yet. And I love that we're getting more details on the characters. I truly believe we're going to see that they really do tie in with the Transformers now due to the Energon ports and the Zerta Trion. It read so fast because it was just fun and learning new things about the characters.
I will agree with you there. I like the fact that we're talking Zerta Trion. They announced that there's another Trion, in the Transformers lore. And if you're not familiar with Transformers, there's that Alpha Trion. I know in other lores there are multiples of them. I can't think of the term that they used, but yeah, the art was fantastic. Very well laid out, well written. I was engaged page after page. I'm more invested now after this issue than I was, 5 issues ago.
Right.
The stakes, I think by filling out the story, it makes me more engaged. knowing where it places. It's kind of like, Transformers can kind of be like that cosmic property, but a lot of Transformers is that fish out of water story on Earth, and then the opposite side of the story is them at home in Cybertron with no resources. And this allows them to have a kind of separate storyline out in the cosmos.
Yeah, and another thing with the art, I think the art really fits the story, which is a common thing with these Energon books. Well, I love the coloring. The colorists to Void Rivals, the greens, the purples, they just always seem to be spot on what you'd want it to look like.
Right. And I like the fact that they're leading to something bigger, with, Zerta Trion, but also you're getting a little bit more of the Agorans and the Zertonians, as the two leaders talk to each other, as they conspire together to keep their each side apart.
Yeah,
Almost like they're doing something about of what's going on with Zerta Trion. So, like, what are they preventing? Why are they preventing? But the other thing too I like is the fact that it's almost like Zerta Trion has given life, creating this, the sacred ring where you have, you know, the Agorans and the Zertonians born from Zerta. So I like the implications there of what this means storytelling wise. And also, the story possibilities now with Pythona and her cadre from Cobra Law going out into the cosmos to search this out.
yeah, I had forgot about that till you just said it.
Yeah, there's really not much to, other than the fact that I wish it didn't take 10 issues to get to this point where I'm this engaged. I really don't really have anything really negative to say about this book at all.
No, no, not at all. It was a very, very good book. But you're right though. 10 issues in, now I am there. I am, I'm ready for that next one.
Yeah, so I don't is there anything you want to speak about the whole of these four issues?
Just that the Skybound with the Energon universe continues to blow me away. I truly look forward to getting my comics. I love reading them. They're bringing, except for Void Rivals, is new characters to us, but they're really bringing. The reason I collect toys is mostly because of my childhood. Get those good memories back, and these books are doing that for me too. Characters I've loved for 40 years are doing new things now. I like it. It's fresh take on my childhood.
Yeah, all I have to say is that June was another solid month. I think they were all excellent books. I think they're really, for the most part, all must reads. If you're interested in Transformers and GI Joe, you if you're interested in both properties, it's probably good if you read all of them. If you just like one or the other, you kind of have two books to read. If you like GI Joe and you really want to skip out on Transformers, you can. And that means you can also skip out on Void Rivals. But if you like Transformers and you're not really a GI Joe person, you can read Transformers and Void Rivals.
Right. I don't see myself stopping collecting any of these anytime soon. I can't wait for the GI Joe. I'm not sure if there's going to be one or two books because they're going to have two groups, but I'm looking forward to those.
I'll find out. I bought the ash can when it went
Oh, okay.
for sale on San Diego on Skybound's website for San Diego Comic Con. So I spent the $25. Excuse me, um, more than I wanted to spend, but I wanted to just be prepared, because I do a podcast.
Yeah.
Just yeah, I'm looking forward to this. Can't wait to see where they continue to take us on this new telling of these toys.
Yeah. And I guess the last thing I want to say on it is I truly believe that their just properties are in good hands. I think it went to the right company because I believe Robert Kirkman loves Transformers and G.I. Joe.
Oh, absolutely.
So, and that's a good thing.
And that has been this Missile for the Masses. This has been the Chaps and Sisters Motor Pod. I have been your host, Gary.
And I'm Casey.
And thank you for listening. And if you enjoyed listening to this podcast, please rate, review, share wherever you listen to this podcast. The Chaps and Sisters Motor Pod is brought to you by Spotify for podcasters. Any way you can interact and share only helps to grow and improve this podcast. For more Chaps and Sisters Motor Pod, you can find me on social media at Chaplain Joe Pod on Facebook, X, and Instagram. And for more of Casey,
you can find me at Podcast from the Pit on YouTube, Instagram, any podcast catchers, you can find us there. Our email is podcastfromthepit@gmail.com. Hit us up. We'll talk toys, any kind you want.
And also, the Chaps and Sisters Motor Pod is the strange but not estranged nerdy little brother of The Pint, a pop culture podcast. And with all of that out of the way, one final missile for the masses. Be decent to each other.
Take care, everybody.
You know, Dalek takes off his... No, it's not Dalek. Is it Derek? Dang it.
Johnny, I've read every issue and I can never remember the two main characters' names.
I remember Handroid.
Handroid, yes. Handroid is my favorite. I believe it does start with a D, though.
Yeah. I don't want to say it's
But I don't
Dalek
think they use
because that's who. It's Doctor Who.
Yeah, that's Doctor Who.
Don't touch that. Yes, Layla.
I don't even know if they used it this issue.
Yeah. Robert Kirkman needs to use the names more often. Let's close it out. Hold on. Get ready.
I know I got to be up in like 4.5 hours.
Let's wrap it up. I'll wrap it up real quick.